far. You don't know what people are going through each day. So just doing one little thing to help them out can just leaps and bounds for everything else.
Lots of kindness going around. Good karma. I like to think about it that way. Really nice guy out there. But yeah.
Morgan Ashley, bringing you the content that connects our communities. You're watching NonStop Local Pulse Prime.
Well, new tonight in Othello, a deadly crash over the weekend has shaken the community. 3 young girls gone too soon, and in the days since, neighbors and local businesses have rallied together to support their families. Good evening. I'm Morgan Ashley. Welcome to Pulse Prime. Brendan Jin has more on how the community's responding and the turnout that's been nonstop.
It means a lot. It's very beautiful to see everybody coming together to support these 3 families, especially during this very hard time.
The Othello community is coming together after a deadly crash Sunday afternoon, killing teenagers Yuritsi Flores Romero, Melissa Romero Espinoza, and Iris Ramos Cruz. Tropical Express, along with several other businesses in Othello, are holding fundraisers to help the families, and the community is showing up.
And I think it's better if, as a smaller community, we all get together to support each other. You know, 3 young lives. They were student athletes. You know, it's just a tragedy. So we're doing what we can to help support the families.
I didn't know them, but I've been through a similar situation in my hometown. So it's super important to just come together and support the families that are going through it.
All sales at Tropical Express on Wednesday go directly to the 3 families. Alex Aguilar has been working since 6 in the morning and says the line hasn't stopped.
Like, everybody's been coming through asking about the donations. Some people who never have been here to the shop before have stopped and asked by, hey, are you guys taking donations for the 3 families of the girls?
Aguilar says some of the girls were regulars at the shop. Briseida Galvez says she knew Yuritsi for over a year at Othello High School and is grateful for the community support.
I've grown to know her this past year, especially because we were in a wrestling team here in Othello together, and we did both qualify for the district and state tournament, which I was with her at state, and I was able to see her win some matches.
While this is a difficult time for many, the Othello community is supporting their neighbors.
I just hope that this helps each family out, and I'm very grateful that we're able to do this, and I don't take anything for granted.
In Othello, Brendan Jin, NonStop Local.
Temperatures are starting to cool down for this evening. Currently towards Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, we're seeing those temperatures into the 60s. Areas around Coeur d'Alene currently at 52 degrees. We have calm winds as of this evening. Yakima, Tri-City is currently into the mid-50s as well. North winds 3 to 5 miles an hour. We had a couple brief downpours for today. Those were closer towards the Idaho panhandle. Most of those are starting to dissipate as we are losing that daytime heating, and we are now under those mostly clear skies. As we head through the remainder of this evening, we're going to start to see just clearing skies. We're going to have a great stargazing night, but by the time we get to tomorrow, we are welcoming sunshine here in the inland northwest and a couple clouds into the afternoon hours. Here's your day planner for tomorrow. Spokane, Coeur d'Alene into the 70s, closer to 80 degrees towards Yakima and Tri-Cities, and we got much warmer temperatures on the way this weekend. Morgan, back to you.
All right, Tori, thank you. New tonight, and listen up for voters. The Spokane Transit Authority board's moving forward with placing a sales tax renewal measure on the August 4th primary ballot. Joining us now is NonStop Local's Ainsley Anderson. Ainsley, you've been tracking this story. What's the contention been on this?
Well, Morgan, after weeks of back and forth conversation between members of the STA board, members have voted in a very close decision to place the renewal of an already existing sales tax to help fund public transportation on the August ballot.
It's our job and responsibility as the board to come to a compromise.
A deferred vote last week brought tensions on a vote facing the Spokane Transit Authority Board Wednesday night about whether or not a transportation sales tax would be showing up on the August ballot.
There's folks out there who don't support transit.
And the biggest difference, if it would appear with a sunset clause or not.
And I think that is the highest priority for me, is to get it on the ballot in August. So I am willing to do that level of compromise.
The compromise settled on.
So I think a sunset at 20 years. I wouldn't go on less than that.
The STA board voted 5-4 in what's being considered a compromise approval for the tax to appear before voters as soon as possible.
I was not in favor of a sunset at all a few weeks ago. I'd prefer not to have one, but at the same time, it is a different political climate. And I think I'm looking at it from a different perspective over the last few weeks. I've been thinking about it.
However, some, like Councilmember Sarah Dixit, remained firm in her opposition to adding a sunset clause.
And for us to then determine, no, this isn't worthwhile to invest in for the future of our city, that feels pretty tone deaf, I would say.
And a driving factor behind Wednesday's vote.
Regardless of where we land on whether there's a sunset and our reasons why,
the current sales tax's looming expiration.
It's our responsibility to get this before voters because it is going to sunset in 2028.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And Morgan, this follows reports from our partners at the Spokesman Review. The Greater Spokane Incorporated was urging STA to not place the sales tax on the August ballot at all, as it would sit side by side with a much steeper new jail tax for voters. However, the passing of tonight's vote will put both in front of voters in August. Morgan.
All right, Ainsley, thank you for that. A crime tracker alert as police in Spokane are investigating a hit and run that left a man clinging for life, 37-year-old Justin Labrie. Right now, dozens of family members have gathered at Sacred Heart in Spokane. The word from doctors there is that Labrie has just a 10% chance of surviving his injuries.
It gave him a 10% chance to live.
I just hope someone is willing to just accept what they did. It's not fair to leave anyone on the road like roadkill.
Well, the family says Labrie remains in a medically induced coma. If you have any information that could help this investigation, you are asked to call Crime Check at 509-456-2233. Another crime tracker alert out of Spokane now. Police say they have arrested a hospice facility caretaker accused of stealing from dying patients and their families. Investigators say 41-year-old Leanna Anderson was identified as the only employee present during 3 different instances of theft. Spokane police say they have connected her after she allegedly used stolen debit cards to buy lottery tickets and then redeemed them for cash. Anderson now faces multiple charges, and police believe there could be more victims. Some continuing coverage on a standoff in 9 Mile Falls in Stevens County involving a deputy that was shot at and required surgery. The coroner says that 66-year-old Jim Jordan of Stevens County died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police say he's the suspect who shot at that deputy responding to an overnight burglary. We've also learned those who live at that home that he broke into had a no-contact order against him for alleged domestic violence. He was actually set to go on trial in May, out of jail, after a judge set certain conditions for his release. The deputy, who's not been identified, is expected to make a full recovery. Well, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and today marks International Denim Day. It stems from a 1990s Italian case where a conviction was overturned based on the so-called jeans defense. Since 1999, people worldwide have worn jeans on this day to support survivors. Here is NonStop Local's Belle Lewis.
My name is Belle Lewis. I'm a reporter with NonStop Local, and let me give you the quick rundown on what Denim Day is. It all stems from an incident in the early 90s in Italy when a woman, then 17, accused her driving instructor of trying to sexually assault her during their exam. After 6 years, he was convicted of rape, but that conviction was overturned years later with the Supreme Court citing what she was wearing, which was skinny jeans. Now, the last Wednesday in April is called International Denim Day, and many local areas do celebrate it and wear jeans to commemorate the victims and their right to bodily autonomy. Now, in Spokane, several organizations, including the SPD, have celebrated it in the past, and there's actually a new tool that they're using and promoting this month to help victims feel empowered to report sexual assault to police. It's called Seek, Then Speak. First, you seek medical assistance, and then you take a self-guided speak portion where you can then send a report to the SPD. And you can find that information on their website if you search Seek, Then Speak Spokane.
Well, that program is available across Washington state. You can also call the number on your screen to be connected to services to help you or loved ones. Former Mayor of Spokane, Nadine Woodward, has elevated her lawsuit against the city of Spokane, saying they violated her right to free speech, raising her request for damages at $10 million. She did appear with alt-right pastor Sean Voigt and controversial leader Matt Shea in 2023 after the Gray and Oregon Road fires. Shortly after, City Council passed a resolution saying her appearance with those two figures showed malice, bad judgment, and poor leadership.
That she would not ever fear man, but she would only fear God.
Pastor Sean Voigt went on to pray, quote, fire would consume Spokane as thousands were displaced by the historic fires. Woodward told us she didn't know Voigt or Shea would be there and does not support their views. She filed the lawsuit arguing council's decision was in violation of her free speech and interfered with her mayoral race against Lisa Brown. We did reach out to the city of Spokane on the elevation and damages. They have declined to comment. Shea and Voigt also filed claims against the city, but Voigt's was dismissed in September of 25. When a judge ruled the resolution did not infringe on his religious practices or free speech. Well, some tough news for Washington State Cougar football fans. We won't see the Cougs out on the field for the next few months. Austin Getz joins us now. It's always a long wait to the end of spring camp to start the season.
Yeah, everyone loves summer, unless you're a college football fan waiting
true.
for the season to get here. Morgan, it just feels like we also got our first real look at the Cougs at the Crimson and Gray game back on Saturday, but now we have to wait. WSU enjoys a well-earned break after 15 practices trying to cram in as much work on the field in a limited time. And even though we won't see the Cougs on the field for a while, they do have a plan laid out on how to keep improving.
Once we get back from our break, just stay connected. You know, come over to the house, barbecue, hang out, go to the pool, kind of just stay connected, hang out with each other, work out hard, and that'll just carry on in the fall.
We're meeting with our players, right, and having a lot of transparency in terms of these are the things that have been really good. These are the things we can improve. This is how we're going to do it, and then we'll bring them back May 31st for a team meeting. June 1st, we'll start the summer program.
Now coming up, we'll hear from the Idaho Vandals and Eastern Washington Eagles who finished spring camp this week. Morgan?
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Austin. Still to come here tonight, the ice rink in Spokane Valley set to begin construction. Where things go from here and when it'll be completed.
And we are talking about the warmer temperatures on the way for the inland Northwest and a potentially record Bloomsday temperature. We'll be right back after the break.
Content connecting community. You're watching The Pulse.
Hey everybody, good evening. I'm Bradley Warren. This is The Pulse. Today on The Pulse, we followed the Supreme Court, which overturned a civil rights era law that increased minority representation in Congress. The court struck down majority black congressional districts in Louisiana, calling the map unconstitutional gerrymandering. The decision could lead to more redistricting nationwide. And today, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, faced questions from lawmakers for the first time since the Trump administration launched the war against Iran. Hegseth pushed back on criticism that the Trump administration led Americans into an escalating costly war without congressional approval. The war right now totaling $25 billion. That's numbers that were presented today by the Pentagon. The secretary responded, citing the threat that was posed by Tehran. Now, this all comes as talks between our two nations remain relatively stalled with no mutually acceptable proposal emerging. On a lighter note, we followed the royal family's tour of the United States. There's video of the king and queen arriving in Lower Manhattan today, where they visited the 9/11 memorial. The royal couple laid a bouquet of flowers at the edge of the site of one of the pools, honoring the victims of the September 11th attack. It was their first time visiting that memorial. I'm Bradley Warren. That was The Pulse. Thanks for being with us. For live local news wherever you are, download our app and enable push notifications. We'll see you later.
Well, in Walla Walla, second case of measles. This is the second case in a person who is not vaccinated and was exposed during international travel. They've identified one public exposure site as Lee Dang's Mongolian Grill in Walla Walla. The patient was there April 20th from noon to about 3 p.m. Health officials urge everyone to check their vaccination status. As we brought you last night, Spokane Valley City Council has approved a new land lease for a new ice rink, clearing the way for construction to begin soon. The city says the contractor has already applied for a permit to level the site near Sullivan Road. Residents can expect to see significant earthwork in the next coming weeks as preparations are getting underway. But city leaders say this project is about more than just new construction. Some traffic disruptions are expected, but lane closures are not anticipated until the city's portion of the project begins. It is on schedule to be completed by June of 2027. Well, we are now just a few days away from the Bloomsday race. Look at that. There's a countdown. 3 days, 11 hours and 12 minutes. Of course, we're going to be live on the ground Sunday morning, bringing you all the action from the Bloomsday race route, and even the undead are excited for the 50th anniversary. Tori, take a look at this. Skeleton and Skeledog, is that what we're calling it? Yeah, in the Bloomsday spirit. And it's very fitting for us because we're going to be on Cemetery Hill today.
I know.
We're like, how do we not make cemetery jokes during Bloomsday?
Yeah.
We're going to have a hard time with that, but
we are.
It's okay.
But I'm excited to see that portion of the race because it is slightly uphill, right?
Yeah, it's like a low grade It's a tough hill. We'll figure it out together.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a look at your forecast. All right, temperatures currently are into the 50s. We have 55 for Yakima, 57 for Tri-Cities, and 60 degrees over towards Spokane. We are seeing clearing skies. We're also seeing the showers start to move out of the region because we're losing those warm temperatures. Currently area-wide, seeing upper 50s, low 60s, upper 40s for Pullman. These temperatures are still quite a bit warmer than they were just 24 hours ago. We're seeing towards the basin roughly about 10 degrees is that temperature difference. That goes for Spokane as well. Colville right about 7-degree temperature difference and about 6 degrees difference towards the Lookout Pass. All right, well, we have clearing skies across the inland northwest. This is because we have high pressure ridging starting to move in. We got that low starting to shift out further off towards the east. That is going to keep our weather fair as we head all the way through the rest of your work week and into your early weekend. So here's a look right about 10 a.m. for tomorrow. We get into the noon o'clock hour and you start to see a couple of those cumulus clouds pop up across the area, especially up towards the north of the Panhandle, as well as into Montana. These are going to make for great sunset photos for tomorrow. Keep that in mind. It is going to be a pretty day, sunshine in store for most of the day. And then by the time we get to the evening, we start to lose some of that cloud coverage. Lows tonight going to be into those low 40s. That's what you're waking up to tomorrow morning. Weak high pressure ridging starts to move out of the area. And then we have a strong high pressure system starting to move into the Canadian coast. And that's going to bring us nothing but fair weather and sunshine, as well as well above average temperatures for this time of year through this weekend. In the meantime, highs tomorrow going to be into the low 70s. If you're towards Yakima, Tri-Cities, getting actually closer to 80 degrees. All of us seeing those 80s and actually closer to 90 for Yakima, Tri-Cities by the time we get to Sunday. That is Bloomsday here in Spokane. We're expecting a high of 79 degrees. Record Bloomsday was set back in 1977 at 81 degrees. So we're just going to be 2 degrees close to the record high set for Bloomsday, and that's within the last 50 years. Okay, here is a look at that 7-day forecast. Temperatures getting even warmer for Monday. That should be our first 80-degree day of the year so far is Monday. That goes for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. If you're towards Yakima, Tri-Cities, you're going to see even warmer temperatures closer to 90 degrees by the time we get to Monday, with a high of 89. Again, both Yakima and Tri-Cities starting to see a slow cooling trend from there Tuesday and Wednesday, but still going to be toasty no matter where you're at. We'll be right back after this break with more news.
From the Northern Quest Sports Studio, this is SWX NonStop Local Sports.
A busy week down in Moscow as the Idaho Vandals hold their final practices before closing out spring camp on Friday night with their spring game. Vandals have been hard at work with one last practice tomorrow before the spring scrimmage. It's the second spring camp under head coach Thomas Ford Jr. And if there's one improvement from last year or even from the start of this year's camp, the Vandal HC says they're a lot better between the ears.
I think we've really improved with our maturity, right? Understanding that, yes, we're competing against each other every single day, and it's going to get combative, but we're also on the same team. The Vandals aren't on the Vandals schedule this year, so I think our guys are just much more mature, playing with much more poise, and I think we're having a lot more efficient practices as a result.
Friday night at 6 in the Kibbe Dome, it's the Vandals spring game, Team Black versus Team Gold. Fans are welcome to attend as spring football does officially come to a close. Vandals aren't the only ones getting fired up for Friday. The Eastern Washington Eagles will hold one final practice tomorrow as a walkthrough as they get ready for their spring game on Friday night. Eags have grinded through 13 practices trying to implement new schemes on both sides of the ball. The defense has the experience, especially up front, but it's been the guys in the secondary who have made the most plays through the first 2 scrimmages in Cheney, something that hasn't gone unnoticed by head coach Aaron Best.
I would say probably the safety position. Some of those young guys have stepped up. Bjorn and Marcus, they've stepped up. Bryce Smith obviously hasn't been available for the last 6 or 8 practices, so they've kind of stepped up. McKell's done a nice job being an old guy. I think they've really stepped up from top to bottom.
You'll be able to see those defensive backs flying around when the Eags hold their annual red-white game on Friday afternoon. Evening, it'll start at 5 o'clock in Cheney. Well, just a little more than a week ago, the Seattle Mariners found themselves 10-15 on the season. But in the past week, the M's seem to have begun steering the ship in the right direction. And a win today would cap an outstanding road trip with 5 wins to just 1 loss. M's closing out this series in Minneapolis before they get a day off tomorrow. J.P. Crawford at the dish with no score in the 3rd. Gets the bat on the ball and gets just enough of it to send it over the high wall out in right, and Seattle is the first to hit the board. We'll skip ahead to the 7th. Now the Mariners trailing 2-1, but young second baseman Cole Young, delivering in a big moment. Shot out to the gap in left center, scores Dominic Canzone, and we're even once again. But in the 8th, Victor Caratini up to pinch hit for the Twins and puts Minnesota back in front. A seeing eye single that gets through into left field. However, it's not over yet. In the 9th, the M's get 2 in scoring position for Young, and he comes through in the clutch again. A broken bat single up the middle that scores not only the tying, but the go-ahead run as well. The Mariners win it. They've now won 6 of their last 7 games and are back to 500 for the first time since April 3rd. They'll also be tied for first in the division should the A's lose tonight. Mariners have tomorrow off as they travel home for a big weekend where they will celebrate a franchise legend. Randy Johnson will have his number 51 jersey retired by the Mariners on Saturday alongside Ichiro Suzuki's 51 that was retired last summer. It's a 6-game homestand against the Royals and Braves starting on Friday with Randy Johnson 80s jersey night. And today, ESPN reporting at the NCAA tournament has initiated final steps towards expanding the men's and women's college basketball tournaments from 68 to 76 teams. Still some steps that need to be finalized, but it's looking like March Madness could be expanding as soon as next basketball season. We're back next.
Well, that's all tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
content that connects our communities. You're watching NonStop Local